Good morning, everybody. All right. Wow, it looks like we've got pretty much everybody here. That's so nice to see. I think we're a bit overfull in this class. We have a few people here in addition to the official cap, and that's fine. Let me show you guys a little bit about how class is going to be run, and then we'll get started. So I'm going to share my screen. It's going to default to a maximized screen on your computer. It'll take up the whole of the space there, and I'll ask that you leave that as it is so you can read all the text that I'm going to display. But before I start on that, I just want to close my little home office door here so I don't wake up my wife. So please just give me 1 second and we'll get moving. All right. So most of the time, class is going to be run through this. We'll be using Zoom, and I'll be using this document camera here to share broadcast notes. I need just 1 second to get the camera talking to the computer. No, come on. Do you see it yet? Sorry, this thing takes just a second to wake up. There we go. Okay. All right. At the outset, we'll talk more about this in a minute. I just want to let you guys know that I am recording these lectures. I record all the lectures and they'll be going up on YouTube after the fact. So you might just want to be aware of that if you have your video feed turned on. The screen capture will capture your video feed, which means that your video feed will be on YouTube later. So if you're very shy about that, if you don't like the idea of your video feed eventually at some point being in a public YouTube video, you may want to turn off your video feed. You're welcome to leave it on. There's no reason to be concerned. But I just want to let you guys know. So every day I'm going to begin class like this. We'll have the document camera here. I will remind you of the course code and section number. And of course the date. So this is MAC2311, which is Calc 1, section 004. Today is the 6th of January, 2021, and this is a lecture. And today, we're going to go over the syllabus. And talk about the online homework. And then we are going to get into a little bit of mathematics. We're going to introduce / review some graphing concepts. And we may talk a little bit about limits. Oops, okay, so this thing, for whatever reason, when it first wakes up, the autofocus is real slow. There we go. All right, and so everyday class will start just like this. Yeah, I'll write these things at the top here. I'll tell you what we're gonna do today, and then we'll get into it. So let's get into it. My name is John Filesticker. You can call me Professor Filesticker or Professor John or whatever makes you feel comfortable. I know my last name is a little hard to pronounce. Let's begin by going over to Canvas. So I know you guys weren't loaded in until just recently. Obviously, since you're here, you were loaded in and you found the announcements and everything, which is great. Here's the home page for our Canvas class, and there's a few things I want to point out. So the class meetings, hopefully you've got this all figured out. That's no big deal. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 to 10:45. The Friday meeting, I think, is officially our lab. But because we're doing this online format, there's really not a big difference between the labs and the lectures. I'll try to make them a little bit more focused on problem solving, and there may be a few days where we do exercises in Desmos, some group exercises, things like that. But really just think of it as a 3-day-a-week class. We meet 3 days a week, 9:30 to 10:45. Office hours I've set up in Zoom. So I've got an office hour Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And if you want to join that Zoom meeting for that office hour, you just wait for this time, Monday at 1 p.m. or whatever, and you click this link. And just like the link you clicked to come to class today, this will launch a Zoom meeting. And the same thing is true for the Tuesday, Thursday office hours. I use R to abbreviate a Thursday, otherwise the TT can be a little bit confusing. So MWF means Monday, Wednesday, Friday. TR means Tuesday, Thursday. One thing I would like everybody to put in their cell phones right now, in their cell phone calendar, is this final exam date and time. It's not a normal class meeting time, right? We do not normally meet at 8 a.m. and I'm not sure if April 28th is a day that we would normally meet. It's a Wednesday, it is. So, but please put this in your calendar right now and give yourself a few little notifications, like a notification a day before, a notification an hour or two before, to make sure that you're aware and awake when this rolls around, because there's very little room to do makeups for final exams. I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to also click this link here, and you can right click save as, or just click the link and it should prompt you to download the syllabus. It's a PDF and I'd like you guys to save that somewhere safe on your computer, somewhere you can find it. Don't just dump it into your downloads folder, but maybe on your desktop, create a folder for this class and save the syllabus there. I'm going to go ahead and open that syllabus so we can talk through it. Here we go. This is your section. All right, so this is the full course syllabus. And again, I do want you guys to save a copy of this somewhere locally on your computer. Some of the things at the top we've already been over because they're in the Canvas syllabus there. This is my name. My office is A031D on the main campus. We call it the Northwest campus, but of course I'm not going to be found there very often. So if you're looking for me there, you probably will not find me. But if we happen to schedule an on-campus meeting for whatever reason, that's where I will be. Email is certainly the best way to reach me. This is my email address, and this is a mail to link. So if you click this link, it'll open up whatever you use, your email client, and start a message to me. When you email me, please put this information in the subject, right? The course name and the section. So just tell me. It lets me set up filters in my inbox to organize things, and that allows me to respond more quickly to you guys when you need a response. Class meetings and office hours, we already went over. Final exam, we talked about that. The prerequisites for the course, of course, you need a C in the class that comes before or better. Course materials, I do want to talk a little bit about. So we're using Stewart. Stewart is a very old book. It's been around since the 70s. We're in the 8th edition now. And this is the ISBN. It's very important that whatever textbook you look at, and you don't need to buy a hard copy of the textbook, but whatever calculus textbooks you choose to look at for reference, if you choose to do so, make sure they are early transcendentals. There's a big difference. The early transcendentals get things like trig functions and the natural log involved right away, rather than waiting until you discuss differential equations to do that, which is very silly. If you would like a copy of the textbook, you can of course buy a hard copy from the bookstore or from any online vendor. I recommend Abe Books, ABEBOOKS. If you're looking to buy a hard copy, the ISBN again is here, but you will have access to an electronic textbook automatically once you register for this class in WebAssign. I do need everybody to register for this class in WebAssign immediately. So this is something that even if you don't have your access code yet, and you have to purchase an access code for WebAssign, even if you haven't done that yet, you can still register. Just go through the process like you normally would if you had an access code. And when you get to the page that asks you for the access code, scroll down and you'll see a little like light gray link that says click here to start trial access or click here to start temporary access. That will get you in for the first 2 weeks of the class, even if you don't have an access code. Then as soon as you do get your access code, whether you're waiting for it to ship or you haven't purchased it yet because you're waiting for financial aid to drop or whatever, as soon as you do get that access code, go ahead and put it into WebAssign so you don't get kicked out when the 2-week trial access ends. The class key that you need to register for this class in WebAssign is right here. You can copy paste it from the syllabus. I just want to show you guys here in Canvas, you can click this link, the first big link here to go to WebAssign. And then you can just go to enter class key. Now I'm already set up and registered here, so I'm going to go ahead and pop in and show you guys what this, they changed it, didn't they? Well, let's see how this works. I know the publisher Cengage is pushing really hard right now. Let's just do it like this. The Cengage, the publisher for WebAssign, is pushing really hard right now to get everybody to move over to a subscription-based plan called Cengage Unlimited. You don't have to do that. You can still buy a regular access code. The only reason it would make sense to use Cengage Unlimited is if you have a bunch of other classes that are also using WebAssign or other Cengage products. This is our section. And as soon as class ends today, I'll be opening up the very first homework assignment. I'll talk more about that once we get to that part of the syllabus. Has anybody not used WebAssign before? Is anybody having any sort of trouble getting into WebAssign or concerned about getting in? I should tell you, Zoom, you can hold down the space bar to talk. Think of it like a walkie-talkie. You hold the button, or of course you can type in chat. There's a little button on the bottom to open up a chat dialog. Okay, I don't see any concerns there, but if you do have trouble getting into WebAssign, please send me an email or Canvas message letting me know, and I'll work with you and work with our WebAssign rep to make sure everything goes okay. I want everybody in there today. All right, I need everybody to get into WebAssign today. Remember, even if you don't have your access code, you can get in with the temporary access, and it's very important you get in immediately because we have homework this week. We have homework right away. Calculators for this class. The only calculator that you're allowed to use on tests is the TI, Texas Instruments 32XS. No other calculators are allowed, and I'll talk with you a little bit about how proctoring for exams and all of that stuff is going to work. But on tests, this is the only calculator you're allowed to use. You will not need it. Right? I will not give you guys problems that are heavy in arithmetic on exams, and this calculator is not capable of exactly evaluating trig functions. It'll only give decimals, and I won't award credit for those. So you need to know your unit circle, and the only places where I can imagine you would even want a calculator in this class is for evaluating trig functions if you happen to forget your unit circle. This calculator won't do that. So you won't need a calculator, but if having one makes you feel more comfortable, this one is allowed, but no others are. Another thing to be aware of, some stuff that you will need for this class, of course, is a computer. You need to keep your browser, specifically Chrome, up to date because the exams, we're going to use HonorLock as a part of our proctoring system. And HonorLock requires that Chrome be updated regularly. So if you don't have automatic updates turned on for Chrome, please go ahead and do so. You need consistent internet access. This is something that's been a bit of a sticking point for some people in the past. I know some apartment complexes in town have somewhat unreliable internet. If you know that sometimes your internet goes down for an hour or two at a time, most of the time that's not going to be a big issue. But if it were to go down like that during an exam, that could be a big issue. So I advise you, if you know your internet access to be a little bit spotty at times, please set up a plan B. Have a second place in mind that you can run to and use the internet. That can be campus. You can go to the Northwest campus, Santa Fe, or any of our other campuses as long as they're open. Starbucks, McDonald's, wherever. But if you don't have super consistent internet access, please think of a plan B. Think of an alternate place you could run to if you were to run into a crisis like that during a test. You also need a working webcam. Again, this is for HonorLock, but there's another catch here. When we proctor exams this semester, and those of you who have taken classes with me in the past may be a little bit surprised by this, we're going to use a 2-camera system. We're not just using HonorLock. In addition to HonorLock, I'm going to require you guys have your phones set up on the side of your desk, showing your hands, your workspace, your paper, and that's going to be done through Zoom. So when we get to exams, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But you need to have a smartphone capable of running Zoom or a second device capable of running Zoom simultaneously with HonorLock. So you'll need to have the computer with a working webcam and then either a smartphone, a tablet, some second device that we can run Zoom on during the exams. Okay, we're getting into the sort of boilerplatey part of the syllabus. So I'll ask you to bear with me. I know this isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but we will get back to fun stuff in a bit. This is the first course in the calculus sequence. So we focus primarily on graphs of functions, limits, concepts like continuity, what it means for a function to be continuous. We'll talk a lot about rates of change and the derivative, which is a calculus concept related to rates of change. After we talk about the derivative and differentiation skills, which is how you cook up the derivative. We're going to talk about some applications, things you can do with the derivative, like figure out how long it's going to take an object to hit the ground after you throw it off of a balcony, or how much energy or force there is involved in a car accident, all sorts of fun things like that, finding minima and maxima. And then we'll shift to finding areas, like areas under curves or areas between curves. And those are called integrals. So the last bit of the class will involve working carefully with definite and indefinite integrals, and then the fundamental theorems of calculus, which is the relationship between the area problem and the derivative problem. So we'll talk a lot about a lot of fun things, but they'll all be connected in some way to the idea of a tangent or a rate of change, or to the idea of an area under a curve. If you want to look at a full topic of the course, full list of topics for the course, you can follow this link here. And it's worth taking a look at that just to make sure you have a well-rounded understanding of what it is we're going to do. But I'm not going to read through this right now. Cell phones, this is not a huge deal in the online setting, but please just don't use tech in any way that distracts other people, right? Everybody who's here belongs here. If you're here, you belong here. You have a right to be here, and you have a right to hear and interact and get to take part in all of the things that we do in this class. And if you're doing something that inhibits other people from feeling present, feeling welcome, or taking part in all the things that we need to do in this class, that's really not kosher. That's not okay. So I know right now nobody's going to be distracting somebody else with their cell phone, but things like pasting memes in the chat or side conversations in chat, or blowing somebody up in Discord or GroupMe during class when you know you're both here in class, those sort of things really aren't cool. So please just be respectful of each other. And then this second bit is very important. Besides the tools that we're using for proctoring, absolutely no cell phones, tablets, smart devices of any kind can be out during tests. We're going to be very strict about this. Attendance. So I use Zoom to take attendance every day. So this, again, is a little bit different online than it would be in person. Zoom takes attendance automatically. So please use your full name in Zoom. Make sure it's the same name that you have on your Santa Fe ID. Because the attendance records, especially during the first 2 weeks, are important for financial aid. Your financial aid won't be dispersed until I've marked you as having attended the class, and the way I do that is through the Zoom logs. So please make sure that the name you have here in Zoom is the name that is on your Santa Fe ID. There is no attendance component to the grade, right? I'm not going to take points away if you miss class or anything like that. So if you do miss a class, you don't need to email me and say, hey, this is why I missed class. But you should contact me and say, hey, I missed a class. You know, what should I do to catch up? What should I look at? Please attend class, but know that there isn't a penalty for not attending class beyond missing the lecture. Makeups. So I'm really loose about this. There's going to be homework every single week, but if you fall behind or if you're unable to complete a homework set before the due date, that's not the end of the world. WebAssign has a system for you to request extensions. If you need more time on a homework set, please just request an extension. Best if you do it ahead of time, and I'll grant those extensions. There's no grade penalty for that. It's very important that you stay on top of the work in this class. So the due dates aren't there to penalize you in any way. They're just there to help keep pace. And if you do fall behind, that can be really destructive. The best predictor for success in this class is completing the homework honestly, by yourself, on time. And every day right after class, you should solve at least 1 or 2 problems. But if you do happen to need more time on a homework set, just request an extension. I'll grant it. There's no penalty for that. Study guides need to be in by the test. I don't like taking those late unless there's some very good reason. And exams, if you happen to miss one, I need an explanation. If you know ahead of time you're going to be out of town or you're going to, for some reason, be unable to take the test at the scheduled time, let me know and I'll work with you to schedule a makeup. If you're in a car accident or if your dog bites the neighbor's kid and you have to go to court or whatever crazy stuff happens that happens in life, and you miss a test because of that, just let me know and try to get me some documentation. I'll work with you to schedule a makeup. I really just want you guys to do the work. I want you to learn the material and do the work. I don't particularly care when you do. But for security purposes, we really need that makeup to be scheduled within 1 week of the missed test. So if you do happen to miss a test and need a makeup for whatever reason, reach out to me immediately, and we need to get that makeup done within a week. Last little note here, after the day of the final, I'm not doing any extensions or taking any late work. So that's the absolute hard cutoff for late work, is the day of the final. The majority of the time when you're working on stuff for this class, you'll be doing either a homework or a study guide. The homework is going to open up every single week. So every week there's a homework set on WebAssign, and it opens the first day of class of that week. So for example, the first homework set is going to open immediately after class today, and will be due on the first day of class the following week. So since we started on a Wednesday, it's a little bit weird, but your first homework set is going to open today, and it will be due next Monday. Next Monday after class, your second homework set will open, and it will be due at the start of class the following Monday. So this is the system that I use. It gives everybody a full week to work on the homework. I think it's fair and convenient and all of that good stuff. Before each midterm, about 1 week before each midterm, I'm going to assign a study guide. This is a special homework assignment in WebAssign. And to get credit for the study guides, you need to do more than answer the questions in WebAssign. That's not the point. The point of the study guide is for you to write out your solutions like you would on a test. And then you're going to scan. I suggest using the app Cam Scanner. You're going to scan and submit those written solutions in Canvas. You should send the solutions to me as soon as you can. Don't wait until the day of the test to submit the study guide. You can submit a few problems at a time, however you want to. But the point is for you to show me your written work before the test. That way I can give you some feedback on that work. I can let you know, here's something that you didn't do quite correctly, or here's a little notation mistake. I need you to write this a bit differently. All the little things that we would take points off for during a test, I want to be able to tell you about those mistakes in your work before the test. That way, when it comes time for the exam, you know exactly what I'm expecting of you, and you know exactly what you need to do. So the study guides are a big homework set that I release about a week before the test. You complete the homework in WebAssign, and then just save the paper, right? As you do those homework sets, you're writing things on paper. Save that paper, scan that paper, and submit it in Canvas for the study guide grade. The study guide grade does not come from completing the assignment in WebAssign. It comes from submitting the study guide here in Canvas. So you'll see under assignment, study guide 1, 25 points. This is where you need to submit the written work for your study guide. Lab meetings, usually lab meetings are like recitation, problem solving sessions where I would give you guys some bonus points for correct solutions to homework problems that we discussed together in class. But because we're doing this online, it's a little bit hard to do that. So I'll try to find some way to incorporate something along those lines. But for now, just think of the lab meetings as an extra lecture where sometimes we'll do a little project, or in general, we'll just be more focused on problem solving. The exams, we're going to have 3 midterms and 1 final. Because we cannot do these tests in person, the midterms are going to be in Canvas, and we're going to use HonorLock for proctoring. In addition to HonorLock, I'm going to have you guys sign into Zoom on your phones, and you'll set your phone up. I'll show you something here. Where's my phone? You'll set your phone up something like this. On your desk. All right, so I can see your workspace. I need to be able to see your hands, your paper, everything you're writing. That's what really matters for proctoring purposes. So we're going to have this 2-camera system for proctoring the exams. HonorLock will record your face, your screen, your web traffic, and Zoom will be showing me your desk, your hands, your work surface. And those 2 things together, I think, should be sufficient to guarantee that the tests are reasonably accurate representations of your knowledge. There have been big issues with cheating since COVID. In spring, I think most professors were pretty loose about it. They were having a hard time themselves. Over the summer, that sort of cheating seemed to get a little bit worse as people got more comfortable with HonorLock and found more and more ways to circumvent it. And then in fall of last semester, all the faculty pretty much lost their minds trying to deal with the insane amounts of cheating that was going on. So this semester, we're cracking down, and we're cracking down really hard. And this 2-camera system for proctoring is the main tool we're going to use to do that. If you don't have an extra device, right, if you do not have a smartphone with a camera or a tablet or something like that that you can use for Zoom, let me know. I can get you one. I can get you some hardware to make this work, but I need you to reach out to me ahead of time. Don't let the day of the exam roll around and then say, oh, I don't have a phone, I can't do this. That will not be okay. You need to talk to me ahead of time. So those are the tests. And then the final, again, is going to be on the 28th of April from 8 to 10 a.m. If you haven't put this in your phone, please do so now. Before I move to the next page, are there any questions about any of these things? I know that was a lot of information, none of it especially exciting, but any questions about what we just talked over?
So when you talk about scanning the scratch paper, what do you mean by that? I haven't done that before.
So for the study guides,
Yes, sir.
You will, as you solve the problems in WebAssign, you'll write out your solutions on paper, just like you normally would. And then at the end of that process, once you've finished the study guide, you can use an app like Cam Scanner. I'll show you on my phone here. Where'd you go? Here we go. This is what I like to use. It's free on Android, and it generates really high quality PDFs. Oh, there's some ads. There are ads for the free version, but you can also use a physical scanner, or if you have an iPhone, you can use the Notes app. I think that's capable of generating pretty good PDFs, but it's just a way for you to send me your written work. That's all.
Okay.
Make sure that the solutions are clear and the problems are numbered, that I can read what you've written down. But just think of it as the electronic version of you handing me a paper with your solutions on it.
Okay.
I have a question about that as well.
Sure, yeah, what's up?
So is it for every website homework
No, just for the study guides.
Oh, just for the study guides, okay.
Yeah. So there will be, I think we've got 3 study guides in this class. So 3 times you'll need to do that. And then we do something similar for the exams. After you finish your exam, you'll have to scan your written work and submit that also. But I'll talk more about that when we get closer to it. Any other questions? Remember, you can hold down spacebar to talk or type into chat.
Can we just take pictures of our work and turn it into a PDF from Word?
You can do that, yep. Yeah, and there are also tools
I have a question.
for converting to PDF. Yeah, Selena?
I have a question about the WebAssign. So I was trying to log in while you were talking about it, and it says I need an access code, like not like an access code to like join and pay for it, but like your code to join the class, like the
Yes. So that the class
link
is this right here. So you can copy paste it from the syllabus. SF College 4334-1301.
Oh. Okay, sorry, I just didn't see it. Thank you.
No, don't be sorry. No, that's fine. Any other questions?
For the access code, when we buy it, we can get that at the Santa Fe bookstore. It's just that, is it just like an access code for WebAssign, or we can like buy it online through WebAssign?
Both of those are true. Yeah,
Okay.
So everybody heard what Holly asked. Can you buy the access code at the Santa Fe bookstore, or can you buy it online through WebAssign? Either one. If you want to use your financial aid to buy it, I think you have to go through the bookstore. But if you want to use your own money to buy it, you can buy it directly from Cengage online. There are also some online retailers like Abe Books and Amazon that sell WebAssign access codes. Just make sure you know what you're getting. There is another option also. Cengage, which is the publisher for WebAssign, has been pushing something they call Cengage Unlimited. It's a subscription service, and I don't know how much that costs right now, but you can pay for Cengage online through Cengage, or Cengage Unlimited online through Cengage. You can also buy a single term access code online, and you can buy a multi-term access code online. Which one makes sense for you money-wise kind of depends on what classes you intend to take for the rest of the year. But I would say the easiest thing to do is to go online and direct from Cengage buy the single term access code. That's what I would probably do were I in your position. But if you want to use your financial aid, we do have to go through the bookstore.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, yeah.
With the WebAssign, does that come with an ebook, or?
It does,
like,
yes. There's
okay.
an electronic copy of the book that you'll have access to automatically through WebAssign. I can show you what that looks like here. I'm actually not a big fan of the way they have the ebook organized. You can't readily flip through pages. But you can kind of click through the sections, and they do have some extra material, and here's some videos and things like that. It's not bad. It's not bad, and you do have access. It has everything that the hard book has, and it has quite a few other things as well. If you don't like the ebook and you would like to find a hard copy, I can help you find an affordable hard copy of the text also. We're in the 8th edition now, but really the 7th and 6th edition are not much different. The only difference is the problems and the order of the problems. So if you wanted to find a physical copy of the book, feel free to grab like a 6th or 7th edition. Also, PDFs are not that hard to find. You'll see me referencing this PDF of the textbook all the time. Where is it here? Right here. So I'll pull this up all the time, and I'll tell you, I certainly did not buy this. I just Googled around until I found it, and it's the full book. Okay. Other questions about the first pagey stuff in the syllabus here? Peaky. Sorry, I have a very hungry cat nipping at my ankles. All right, so we're all clear on how to get started in the class, right? We need you guys to register for WebAssign. Even if you don't have your access code, you can do that right now using the temporary access, the trial access, and the class key you need to tell them that you want to join Professor FileSticker's section 002 at Santa Fe is this thing. So you can just copy paste this from the syllabus.
And
moving on.
Also,
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No.
For trig and pre-calc, I use the TI-84 calculator. I can't use that anymore.
That's correct. When you're working the homeworks and stuff, you're welcome to use whatever you want to use. Obviously, I can't police that, but I would recommend practicing without the calculator, because on the tests, certainly no graphing calculators are allowed. Yeah, the only calculator that we're allowed to use on the exams is the TI-30 IIXS or the TI-32XS. You will not need a calculator. So the problems will be designed so that the arithmetic is very simple. We're here to test your calculus skills, not your arithmetic skills. So I promise you won't have to multiply crazy decimals or do anything weird like that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. So the next thing in the syllabus is this recording notice. Our class meetings are in Zoom, and I record the whole meetings, which means if your video feed is on, then you will appear in the video. So if you don't like that, you can keep your video feed off. Similarly, the exams are going to be recording both through Zoom, your desk, and through HonorLock, your face. So please just be aware of what you're wearing and your surroundings when doing those things. Some dates that you may want to put in your calendar. Of course, the day classes begin are fairly straightforward, but this is important. The last day to add a class is tomorrow, and the last day to drop a class is the 11th, which I think is next Tuesday. So if you were to choose, or sorry, next Monday. So if you wanted to switch classes or switch sections for this class or any other class, the last day you can add a new section is tomorrow. And the last day to drop any class and get your money back, nothing on your transcript, you get your money back, is next Monday. Some other holidays that you want to be aware of: Dr. King's birthday is the 18th, or that's when we close to honor that. March 8th through March 13th is spring break. And while I've heard some rumors of UF canceling spring break, as far as I know, Santa Fe right now is still doing this. So college will be closed from March 8th through March 13th. The last day to drop the class and get a W, that is a non-A through F letter grade, but a W on your transcript, is March 24th. And I'll talk more about that as it gets closer. The last day of class is a month after that, April 24th. And then again, the final exam is on April 28th from 8 to 10 a.m. And then the grades will be posted in eSanta Fe on your on your transcripts there on the 4th of May. The grade breakdown in this class is pretty straightforward. The online homework is worth 45 points, or about 8% of the grade. The study guides are collectively worth 75 points. There's 3 of them. Each one is worth 25 points. So altogether, those are 13% of the grade. The midterm exams are worth 100 points each for a total of 300. There's 3 of them. And that makes up 53% of your grade, a little more than half. And then the final exam is worth 150 points, which is 26% of the grade. The gradebook I use is the Canvas gradebook. You don't need to bother looking at the WebAssign gradebook. I won't be putting anything in there. I won't even be turning it on. But if you go into the Canvas gradebook, you can type in these little what if scores and calculate your grade. You can say, see what's in so far, and then you can put in points for things down the line. So at any time throughout the semester, you should know exactly what your grade is in the course, and you should be able to estimate what your grade will be by guessing how you do on future assignments. So if you have any trouble figuring out your grade or trying to figure out what your grade might be if you got this or that grade on the final, just let me know. But you can fiddle around in Canvas. The gradebook there is very user-friendly. If you like calculating things based on points, the total point value here is 570, and the point ranges for each of the letter grades are down here. The percent ranges for each of the letter grades are the standard thing where 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 90 or 80 to 89 is a B, and so on. But the top 3% in each category earns that plus designation. So a 77 or a 78, for example, is a C+. One of the questions I get a lot towards the end of the semester is, how close do I need to be to the next grade for you to round me up? My rule on that is 0.5%. So an 89.5, that's an A, right? Or a 79.56, that's a B. So if you're within 0.5% of the next letter grade, I will go ahead and round it up. The next page here talks about some kind of standard Santa Fe things. The GELO, General Education Learning Outcome, is not something you need to stress about, but I'm obligated to tell you about it. It's a statistic that we collect to grade how professors are doing, how faculty are doing. So there will be some questions on the final exam that might have a little G next to them to say that this is for the GELO. They don't show up on your transcript. They have no bearing on your grade besides being a question on the test. And it's not something you need to stress about, but for whatever reason, Santa Fe requires us to tell you that we're collecting this data. Academic integrity, this is a big deal. So I mentioned earlier a little bit the cheating issues that have occurred since the shift to online. I really would like everybody to read these rules. Right? It's important. So last semester, I actually had to, just on the final exam, I caught 9 people cheating. And it's important that you guys know these rules so you know what standards you're being held to, right? Ignorance of the law does not excuse breaking the law. So it's really very much worth your time to take a look at these and make sure you know exactly where the lines are that you shouldn't cross. There is some like annoying legalese in here, but once you get to these bits, it all becomes pretty clear. The language is straightforward. So please read the academic integrity rules. Make sure you know exactly the standards you're being held to. The ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. If you do have any sort of disability, if you're registered with the DRC, or if you think you might be entitled to any sort of accommodations, regardless of whether you're registered with the DRC or not, please let me know. If you are registered with the DRC, make sure that you have them send me the testing contract and accommodations letter electronically. They should do that as long as you are registered with them, but please contact them to make sure that that happens. If you're thinking about registering with the DRC or plan to do that but haven't done that yet, or if they're dragging their feet a little bit on getting the paperwork done, still the same thing, reach out to me. If you're entitled to accommodations, regardless of the paperwork, I want to make sure you get those accommodations. Accessibility, similar kind of thing. If you have any trouble accessing or reading the material for this class, I publish everything as PDFs in LaTeX, which works well with screen readers and most sort of extra little bits of hardware to help people read or hear things. If you have any trouble with any of that stuff, just let me know and I'll work with you to get you a screen reader or a note taker or whatever it is that that you need to succeed in the class. Discrimination and harassment is fairly straightforward. Just be kind to each other, right? Everybody who's here belongs here. Everybody who's here has a right to be here and a right to take part in this class, feeling like they're included and accepted and welcome. So please don't do anything to make anybody feel otherwise. Please be kind to each other, be kind to me, other faculty, staff. I know that sometimes when you're on the phone with people at Santa Fe in administration or whatever, they can be a little bit terse and it can be a little bit frustrating. And please just try to keep your cool. And that goes for any interaction you have really with anybody professionally. Just be kind, be respectful, and make sure that we're not stepping on any toes. Student rights and responsibilities. This is similar to the link above that I asked you to read. These are some bits of information that you as a student at Santa Fe should really know. What's expected of you and what you can expect of the college. And then at the bottom here, I have an extra note on cheating. This is because of what happened at the end of the term last semester. I know that right now, with classes being online, with COVID messing up everybody's lives, that there's a lot of temptation. There's a lot of temptation to do all sorts of illicit things. And I know that you may have gotten away with some of that shit, right? I know that over the last few semesters, I've heard stories of outrageous volumes of cheating, and I've seen evidence of outrageous volumes of cheating of every single sort. No mas, right? This cannot happen anymore. So I watch the honor lock videos, and in the past, honor lock hasn't been enough for us to really nail somebody unless they're foolish enough to leave their phone unmuted or, you know, stupid shit like that. But this semester, we're doing the secondary proctoring with Zoom, so I'll need to be able to see your desks. And I'm going to be ruthless about this. If I see anything that even smells weird, that even looks like it might be cheating, I'm just going to send it off to Dan Rodkin and let the conduct trial sort it out. It's not a pleasant process for anybody, and I really don't want to do that. Just to be very, very clear about this, the sort of things I've been seeing lately, Photomac, answers from Wolfram, Bartleby, answers from Quora. People Google exam questions and then just copy paste or write down the top response, which is often like Yahoo Answers or Quora, some horrible bullshit like that, Stack Exchange. Communicating with anybody, talking to people on GroupMe, Discord, anything like that during a test, seeking help from any outside source at all is not allowed, and I will come after it real hard. Here's the trade-off though. If you think, you know, there's a test coming up and you're thinking the only way for me to get through this, the only way for me to be okay is to do one of those things above or something that sounds like one of those things above, talk to me, send me an email, right? You can, there are plenty of people here who have taken classes with me in the past and they'll tell you I'm very understanding, very patient. If for whatever reason you think that the only way for you to get through this next thing, whatever that is to cheat, just send me an email saying I'm overwhelmed, I'm absolutely drowning in shit, there's no way for me to do this. I'll work with you. I can move dates around, I can do all sorts of things to help you. I can find you a tutor, I can work with you individually, we can do an incomplete. There's lots and lots and lots of things that we can do instead of cheating. If you are honest with me like that, then I will bend over backwards to help you succeed in this class. And I promise I won't make you feel bad for doing it. It's something that I love to do. I like helping people learn math. That's what I'm about. But if you do cheat, then I will fry you as hard as I can because I am sick of that shit. So please, if you're tempted to do something like that, just reach out to me and let me know that you're in that situation. Just telling me will make you feel better, and then I promise right away I will come up with an alternate path that gives you the time to get where you need to be before the test. So please just communicate with me. I will work with you. I will do everything I can to make things go well for you. Just please be honest with me. All right, that's enough of me on my soapbox. Here's the course calendar. This week, and really, you know, things are a little bit offset because we're starting on a Wednesday. We're going to review some algebra. We're going to talk a little bit about tangents and velocities and remind you kind of rates of change, those things from pre-calculus that everybody hated working with, but had to do. And then we're going to introduce the concept of a limit. Next week, we're going to talk about continuity and limits at plus and minus infinity. In the third week, we're going to talk in detail about rates of change, and we're going to apply limits to this concept of a rate of change to get this thing called the derivative, which is really an instantaneous rate of change. How fast are you going right now? Turns out that thing can be thought of as a function on its own. From there, we're going to plow through a bunch of differentiation rules and tricks for calculating the derivatives, and then we will have our first exam. These dates are not set in stone. They will move around, but you can count on exam 1 being somewhere around the first week of February. After we get through exam 1, I'm going to show you guys how to do some really cool things with the derivative, how to differentiate when you can't solve for y. It's called implicit differentiation. A neat tool where you take a logarithm before you differentiate, and then we're going to talk about related rates. These are basically physics problems, linear approximation. How does your calculator figure out the square root of 2? And min-max problems. How do you find the top of the hill on a graph or the bottom of a valley on a graph? These are things that you've seen in algebra classes, but before you never really had the techniques that you needed to locate those x values. We will find them now. Then we're going to talk about graphing. Graphing is a huge thing in this class, and I will teach you guys how to draw really awesome graphs without a graphing calculator. From there, there's this thing called L'Hopital's rule, curve sketching, applied optimization. This is basically more physics problems, and then we'll do exam 2. The 10th week is spring break, so the college will be closed. And then after that, we're going to change tack. We're going to start talking about areas. So basically, everything up to exam 2 has to do with tangents, derivatives, and rates of change. Everything after exam 2 has to do with integrals, areas between curves, that sort of stuff. We'll play around with a handful of different techniques for calculating those areas. We'll see, this is FTC, this is how areas and tangents interact with each other. And then we will be more or less done with the class. So this is our rough calendar. You can count on exam 1 being somewhere around week 5, exam 2 being the week before spring break, and exam 3 being in either the last or second to last week of class. Right now it looks like it'll be week 15, but we may end up bumping that down to week 16. And that's the syllabus, lads and ladies. I know that wasn't very exciting, but are there any questions for me about the syllabus?
One thing about the honor lock, or not honor lock, but when we're Zooming during the exams, do we need our volume on?
It's a good question. I haven't decided exactly how to do that yet. Probably what I'll do is mute you guys by default, and then I may pop in from time to time and ask you to unmute. Honor lock will be recording through your computer's microphone, so I don't see a need to have your microphones be live during the test. But I might pop in and ask you, hey, can you turn on your mic and talk with me a little bit about the problem you're working on? Something like that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. For our test, could we just take it in the testing center on campus?
Was that Madi asking?
Yes.
So that's a really good question. Right now, what I've been told is that the testing center is still not available at full capacity. So I'm not allowed to send everybody to the testing center, but I am allowed to use it from time to time. That's what they've told us. So if you really want to take your test in the testing center, I'm okay with that. It really depends on what they're willing to let us schedule. I would love it if everybody could take their test in the testing center, but it would kind of defeat the whole social distancing online thing if we sent everyone there. But if for one reason or another you would prefer to take your test there, I'm fine with it. We just have to talk with the people there and make sure they're okay with it.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, yeah, thank you, Madi. Any other syllabus questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, is there a day that you expect the exams to be on, like a Friday or like a Saturday or a Sunday, or what days do you usually schedule those?
I can't say for sure. This is a Tuesday, Thursday class, so the exams will always be on a class day during class time. So there'll always be a Tuesday or a Thursday, but it really depends on when we finish the material from the previous week. So for example, if we were to finish all the material for exam 2 on the Tuesday of the week before, I would have exam 2 on the Tuesday of the following week. If we were to finish all the material for exam 2 on the Thursday the week before, I would have exam 2 the Thursday of the following week. So my rule of thumb, and I won't always be able to stick to this, but what I try to do is give you guys a full week between the last lecture that has material on that exam and the day of the exam itself. That way you have a week to do the study guide and prepare. But the days will vary. I can't say for sure which one it will be.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, thank you, Olivia. Any other questions about syllabus or schedule stuff?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think we're gonna get flagged on Honor Lock for having our phones out?
Maybe, maybe not. You'd be surprised. The honor lock flags aren't a big deal, right? So I review all the honor lock videos anyway, and if you get flagged for something like that, I'll just go in and take a look at it. But
Okay.
I don't think so. I think usually, I mean, the whole reason we're doing this is because honor lock cannot see your desk.
Right.
Phone is going to be, you know, I like to balance mine against a coffee cup or something like that. So Underlock probably won't even be able to see the phone. But if you do get flagged for something that I told you to do, I promise it won't get you in trouble.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
Do you think you could post a link to that PDF of the book for the class?
I cannot. I'm sorry. If you want that PDF, send me an email. But I think I could get in a little bit of trouble if I posted it publicly somewhere that everybody could find it. So I understand that it's something that you might want, and if you do want it, reach out to me or try Googling around. It's not too hard to find, but due to copyright issues, I think I could get in trouble if I posted it.
All right, thank you.
All right, anything else that you guys would like to ask about as far as bookkeeping stuff before we get into some mathematics? Okay. I am going to pop over here and open up a Desmos window and try to give you a little bit of an overview of where we're going. Now let's see, am I logged in? No. What was this? Doesn't look like I have it here anymore. All right, I'm gonna have to find that again in a minute. Looks like I don't have it saved here. Shit. Maybe I used the other thing. So I wanted to introduce you guys to this concept of a tangent. Maybe I have my Gmail one. All right, let's do it like this. So in calculus, a good rule of thumb, anything I write down on the document camera is something you should write down in your notes. So think about this as being precisely what you should transcribe for your notes. So in calculus, we're interested primarily in two things. The first are tangents, tangent lines, and what a tangent line is, if you have some function, looking like this, and you pick some point on the graph, so you've got some x value here, a, and there's a point on the graph up here, which is a comma f of a, so the y value there is f of a. I want to know how fast is that function's height changing as you go left and right. So if we're looking over here, as we go to the right, the height of the function is going up, right? We're going up, 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 and then over here we turn around and we start coming down, 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 down. If you imagine there like a guy skiing along the slope of this hill, his skis are basically what we call the tangent line. So if that's the graph of the function, I will add in here in pencil a picture of the tangent line. So this thing right here is the tangent line to f of x at the point or at x equals a, at the point a comma f of a. The problem of finding tangent lines is one of the two fundamental problems in calculus, and this is where we are going to start. It requires working very carefully with algebra and limits. Specifically, you have to be really comfortable working with fractions, you have to be really comfortable factoring, and you have to be really comfortable with all the rules for canceling. The first part of the course is all going to be centered around this problem of finding the tangent line, and I'll show you a lot of different ways that relates to the real world. For example, if this function is measuring distance, right, how far something is from where it started, maybe you start here and you go travel in a straight line forwards for a little bit, and then backwards for a little bit, and then forwards for a little bit. Then at any given point, the tangent line would be measuring how fast you are going and in what direction. There's lots of other applications too, but I want you to think about it purely in terms of the geometry. Imagine a little guy skiing along this hill. Imagine the graph of f of x as being a little hill, and imagine a little dude skiing along that hill. His skis always point along the ground, right? They always point along this graph. His skis are the tangent line. So if I move this point A over here, for example, then the tangent line, now let me call this B. Why not? That way we're consistent. If I move this over to some x value here called B, then again, you think of the guy skiing along the graph, his skis would be pointing up now because he's going uphill. So the first big question we need to answer in this class is, how do you find this tangent line? If I give you a function like the purple function graphed here, and I give you some number a or b, how can you find the equation of these tangent lines at any given point along the graph? So this would be the tangent line to f of x at x equals b. There are the application problems that I mentioned a minute ago, like finding the velocity given the position function. But there's also a lot of really other cool things you can do with this purely in terms of mathematics. This can help you estimate outputs from the function. One of the definitions of the tangent line is the linear function, right? These are straight lines that best approximates that function f of x near the point A or near the point B. Some other interesting ways to think about it, you'll notice here at A, this function, the purple function, is definitely decreasing, and the tangent line points down. Over here at this point B, the purple function is definitely increasing, and this tangent line points up. So tangent lines can also help us figure out where a function is increasing and decreasing, and that's very useful if you can work with the tangent line algebraically, independent of the graph. They'll also help us find things like maxes and mins. And I'll let you think about maybe what the tangent line would look like at that max or at that min. The main tool for finding tangent lines is called the derivative. Of the function f of x. And we denote that thing by f primed of x. And we'll talk a lot more about notation as we get deeper into the course, but I'm just trying to give you a very basic overview of the two main things we're going to do. So the first main thing we're going to do is talk about how to find tangent lines. I give you a purple graph and some point A, some x value A, and I ask you to find the tangent line to the purple graph at that x value A. once we get good at that, we'll learn how to study this thing called the derivative in its own right. It's its own function, and it's built up out of all the slopes of the tangent lines. So there's an intimate connection here to slope and rates of change. And that's how we relate these things to physics. I'm going to move the page up. I'll leave this here for just a second in case anybody is still writing. The second main thing that we are concerned with in calculus are areas under curves. So again, if I'm given some purple function, f of x, I'm going to move this up. And some interval, say from a to b, my function f of x, I'd like to know what is the exact area bounded by that curve and the x-axis. Between x equals a and x equals b. Here, this is related to the concept called work from physics. Or distance traveled. If this is your position function, then the area, or sorry, if this is your velocity function, then the area under there is distance traveled. And it has to do with something called an antiderivative. So tangent lines are related to something called a derivative, and areas are related to something called an antiderivative. And the notation we use for that is this big, long, curly S with your function inside, and then this symbol dx at the end. So those are the two main objects of study. It turns out that finding tangents is a lot easier than finding areas, but we're going to be able to do both by the end of the semester. Both of these and by both of these, I mean tangents and areas, require a solid understanding of something called a limit. So that's where we're actually going to begin our real work in this class, is by figuring out limits. And your pre-calculus class may have addressed the concept of a limit, or it may not have. I'm going to assume that you have never seen limits before, and we're going to come in and do everything fresh. But the basic idea behind a limit is that if you look at a function and you allow its input, the x values, to get closer and closer and closer and closer to some particular x value, can you track the y values? Do the y values get closer and closer and closer and closer to some particular y value as those x values get closer to some particular x value? It's a very neat concept, but it's very counterintuitive. So we're going to sneak up on the idea of a limit numerically. We're going to play around with the idea of a limit first by messing around with calculators a little bit. One other thing I want to mention here is that rates of change will be a central topic. And we'll use these. We'll use the average rate of change that horrible difference quotient thing from pre-calculus that you may remember. We'll use the average rate of change and limits, whatever those are, to define the derivative. So from a very sort of high level, meaning like not nuts and bolts, but just conceptually, this is where we're going, and these are the tools we're going to use to get there. So the first thing we need to do if we want to enter into this world of calculus, where we can talk about derivatives, tangents, and antiderivatives and areas, is learn how to work with limits. And also the algebra behind these average rate of change things. That's why you saw so many difference quotients in your pre-calculus class, where you had f of a plus h minus f of a all over h, and you had to simplify. The reason we beat you to death with that stuff in pre-calculus is because by connecting those things to limits, we get the derivative. And then by figuring out a way to undo the derivative operation, you get the antiderivative. And all of calculus is built out of derivatives and antiderivatives. So if we want to get started on this, I want to make sure first that we're all really comfortable with the algebra that we're going to use to play with average rates of change, and the concepts that we're going to need to play around with limits. And I'm going to be very gentle today. We're not going to do a lot of hardcore calculation. I'm just going to kind of make sure we have the requisite background knowledge. Any questions so far? Okay. So one of the most beautiful areas of mathematics that's out there anywhere is called topology. Topology is about the study of shape. In the real numbers, we're specifically interested in intervals. I'm sure you're all familiar with the notation, but just for fun here, let me make sure that we've got this. The open interval AB is the set of all x values satisfying the inequality A is less than X is less than B. As long as A is smaller than B, every open interval contains infinitely many real numbers. And the closed interval AB is the set of all numbers X satisfying A is less than or equal to X is less than or equal to B. This should be, of course, familiar concepts. The neat thing about open intervals is that they don't contain their endpoints, but they do contain everything up to their endpoints. And that's where the heart of this concept of a limit lives. So one thing I like to ask my college algebra students on the first day is how many numbers are there in the open interval 0 to 5? And a lot of them will count. They'll go, okay, well, between 0 and 5, 0 and 5 aren't in there, but 1, 2, 3, and 4 are. Oh, there's 4 numbers in the interval 0 to 5. Is that correct?
No.
It's not, right? How many numbers are there in that open interval 0 to 5 or 0 to 1?
Infinitely many.
Yeah, there's infinitely many numbers, right? Because we're not just interested in whole numbers. And really the heart of calculus is trying to understand open intervals, trying to understand this idea of getting really, really close to something, but not actually getting there. For example, here, this guy contains the numbers 0.1, 0.11, 0.111, contains 0.5, right? 0.25. 0.125 contains 0.9, 0.99, 0.999, and so on. These are all in the interval 0, 1. And if you pay careful attention to these last few that I listed here, 0.9, 0.99, 0.999, it gives rise to an interesting question. Is there a largest element of the interval 0 to 1, the open interval? So this is a question I'd like you to think about for a second here. Is there a largest number in the open interval 0 to 1? If there is, what is it? If there isn't, why not?
There wouldn't be one, because you could just keep adding nines to it. There's not a set number that's the largest out of it because it's infinite.
Yeah, that's an excellent answer from Adrian there. The answer is no. Because, for example, here we could just keep adding nines, right? 0.9, that's 9/10. 0.99, that's 99 over 100. 0.999, that's 999 over 1000. No, there isn't a largest.
What about like 0.9 repeating?
Ah, that's a good question. So 0.9 repeating is equal to 1. So that's this idea of sneaking up on something, right? As we add more and more nines to this string, we get closer and closer to 1. But 1 itself is not in the interval. So 0.9 repeating, let's write this as a note. Is not in that interval. The fact that 0.9 repeating is equal to 1 is something we'll be able to prove rigorously to you in Calc 2 when we talk about geometric series. That's really the best way to prove that. But I'm sure you can see any number of weird Facebook posts claiming to prove it. I think Numberphile has an easily digestible proof that is somewhat rigorous. The idea that I want to get at here is that if you look at all the numbers in this interval 0 to 1, it does contain infinitely many numbers. Neither 0 nor 1 is in there though. So between 0 and 1, there are infinitely many numbers. And we can sneak up on the number 1 while staying in this interval, but we cannot get to the number 1 while staying in that interval. And the idea of a limit very much comes from this sneaking up on, or seeing what we get closer and closer to as we edge towards the side of some open interval. Okay, where do we want to go from here? We've talked a little bit about open intervals. How much time do I have left? Oh, we are right at time now, aren't we? So I'll go ahead and leave it here for today. And then on Friday, we're going to talk a little bit about limits, and we'll start working specifically with limits of functions. So next time, we're going to do a little algebra review. And then we're going to start working directly with limits. All right. Now, please, before you sign out, I'd like you to make sure, if you haven't, please change your name in Zoom to whatever your name is on your Santa Fe ID. That way I can take attendance effectively, or at least make sure that I can infer your name on the Santa Fe ID from your name in Zoom. And then you are welcome to sign out. All righty.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Do we really need like to buy the book?
You need to buy the WebAssign access code, which will give you an electronic copy of the book you can see within WebAssign, but you do not need to buy a hard copy of the book, no. If you would like a hard copy of the book or a nice PDF that you can put on your device and bring around with you, reach out to me. Send me a message on Canvas or an email and I can help you find one.
All right.
Any other questions before we leave for today?
For the YouTube videos, is there a title or a name you usually put them under?
I'll actually organize them into a playlist. So later today, after I've uploaded the video, I will add a link to the announcement where you found the Zoom link today. So I will add a link in here to the YouTube video from today. And then if you want to, in my YouTube channel, after you follow that link, you'll be able to see a playlist that has all of the videos for this semester, and they'll be in order. If you really want to, you can look back at my playlist from previous semesters too.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Any other questions before we round out the day here? Okay then, I'm going to go ahead and end our meeting. Next time we're going to do some algebra and trig review, and we'll start working directly with limits. For today, please just make sure you get signed into WebAssign. Make sure you can get into the class. If you have any trouble with that, send me a message on Canvas or an email. If you email me, please put MAC2311 section 004 in the subject so my filter sorts it appropriately, okay? I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you on Friday.
Thank you.
Take care.